My husband slept with our surrogate and lied about our son's DNA. Now I'm divorcing him, but she is claiming legal rights to my child. So I cannot believe my life has come to this. All I ever do is go out of my way to help others, but on the few occasions I need help, nobody ever comes through for me. I, 36F, have been with my husband, 35M, for a total of almost 10 years now, married for 7. We had what I thought was my child by surrogate over 2 years ago, because after 4 years of trying to conceive with no success despite medical interventions, it turns out I'm unable to carry a child to term. I had always wanted to be a mom. Devastated is an understatement regarding how I felt when I found out I have a medical condition that would make it nearly impossible to carry a baby to term. It was even more upsetting when I had to get a major surgery to remove uterine growths with the hope to increase fertility, and complications during surgery warranted a partial hysterectomy, involving removal of my uterus only. I still had my ovaries though, so we started looking into a cost of a surrogate, and it is really expensive. Now, my close friend since college, who had already had 2 kids of her own, offered to serve as the surrogate for us to cut down on costs. And after 2 disappointing IVF sessions that did not result in pregnancy, she became pregnant on the 3rd and carried a boy to term for us. And I was so happy and busy after the birth, between being a mom and returning to work after a 4-week parental leave, so I didn't notice any warning signs. But I should have noticed the red flags and the warning signs early on, but I didn't because I was so exhausted from working so much at my stressful job and my 2 part-time jobs to cover most of the bills and anticipated medical and legal costs associated with this friend becoming our surrogate. I was the primary breadwinner, by the way, and my friend and my husband started talking more, and I would sometimes come home from my weekend job to find her already hanging out at our house when my husband was there. I chalked it up as innocuous, and it's good for her to know my husband better since she was in the process of hopefully carrying a child for us, and I was grateful to have someone helping us have a child. I also thought it weird that our son has brown eyes while both of us have blue. Then I find out that while this is uncommon, it's possible sometimes due to many genes controlling eye color. And then recently, it all came to a head when I took our son to a doctor's appointment and they did metabolic panel and blood tests, which showed that he had a blood type that is not biologically possible to have with me as his mother. He is B+, I am A+, my husband is O+, and I immediately started worrying it was the fertility clinic's fault and that they had messed up and implanted the wrong embryo. I started lining up lawyer consultations to possibly sue the clinic and looked into having a DNA percentage test done. And the test results showed that I'm not the mother, but my husband still is the father. And I was heartbroken and angrier than ever. Spoke to lawyers about medical malpractice in the fertility clinic that we had used. Then my husband confessed that he had slept with my friend, our surrogate, on a few different occasions during our struggle to get her pregnant with our embryos. So this means what I thought was our son conceived by IVF and carried with a surrogate isn't my son at all, and was in fact conceived the old-fashioned way, which I can't do. And livid and absolutely broken at the same time doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. I've been breaking down into crying spells over and over again about this. He claims he didn't ever think pregnancy could result because he pulled out and he had always assumed that he was the reason for our earlier struggles to conceive, both before my hysterectomy and during the IVF insemination process with this friend. And I felt an immediate triple betrayal from what was supposed to be my husband, my friend, and now knowing my child isn't even really mine. I had such white-hot rage and delirium, I immediately left home and stayed at a hotel for almost a week before asking my parents to let me stay at home for a while. And I admit, I left our son with him, but I am now filing for divorce because he cheated and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I have also cut off friendship with my friend, the surrogate, and I feel afraid to trust anyone else now. I have seen a divorce lawyer to see about giving up my legal rights to this kid, so I don't have to face such betrayal or owe child support. My husband and friend/surrogate admit that they were wrong and keeps apologizing, but also called me immature and heartless to just give up my son like that. My parents also say that I can't just give up on a kid that I went through so many legal and medical hoops to have. And when I told them I refused to stay in a cheater marriage and I would rather adopt someday with a better, more trustworthy partner, they also told me I was wrong and that maintaining my parental rights isn't much different than if I adopted outright. They said it isn't blood that makes a family. They are all about me divorcing my cheater husband, but keep telling me I'm making a mistake giving up my parental rights. Some of my other friends agree with what I'm doing. A few admitted that they weren't big enough to swallow pride and care for an affair baby, or to see daily reminders of my friend/surrogate's betrayal every time they look at her son. But me, I just want a clean break and a fresh start. I'm also looking at relocating several states away. So, am I the a-hole to give up my parental rights in the divorce because a kid I paid a lot of money to have, born by surrogacy, isn't biologically mine at all, but the surrogate's instead? Then in the comments section, one user said, "No, OP, you're not the a-hole. You've suffered a terrible betrayal, and only you can say what's best for you. Personally, I wouldn't be able to look at the child without being hit with the betrayal again and again. Your parents and friends don't actually have to deal with the situation. They don't get a vote. And your soon-to-be ex is a real piece of work. You're immature? I would want to throw up if I was in the same room with him. Please, OP, get some therapy to work through this. And don't let these two a-holes hold you back from living your best life." So, he feels like biological maternity shouldn't matter that much when it means I am finally fulfilling my dream of becoming a mother. He says that if I adopt someday, I am still going to have to raise a child that is not biologically mine. He has reminded me about what a depressive wreck I was during the infertility, the aftermath of my partial hysterectomy, and how I put him through the ringer because I was obsessed with wanting to have a child. He claims that I pushed him away with my baby obsession, and he couldn't deal with me anymore, and that's why he started spraying the way he did. He also says that I can't just turn my back on a child when I legally signed all of the paperwork, which is similar to adoption paperwork since the state doesn't readily recognize a child born to a surrogate to be the couple's child since they base it on the person who gave birth to the child as being the legal mother, until paperwork is signed that transfers the rights over. He also claimed that I'm going to have a difficult battle ahead of me trying to reverse that. Then OP replied to a comment saying that the husband and the surrogate should reimburse her for the costs of the IVF and said, "Well, I tried and I failed. The doctor and clinic I complained to said the IVF costs were associated with the formation and storage of embryos, and the procedures associated with the insemination, not the outcome." Then OP elaborates on the process of the fertility clinic being involved and said, "So, the fertility clinic was just involved in the egg extraction, embryo formation, and storage of eggs and embryos. Another medical practice utilized the in vitro fertilization methods with the person I thought would be our surrogate. He did not pick the surrogate for us. It was a personal friend who agreed to do this out of the supposed kindness of her heart, since she already had 2 prior children and knew that she could carry to term easily and didn't mind being pregnant. Had we gone through a professional surrogacy practice, there would have been other steps involved, and they would have found a few options for surrogates for us, but the costs were way too high, which is why we skipped some steps and saved a lot of money by going through a friend that we thought we could trust. Now, I feel like I can trust no one. I don't even feel like I could try surrogacy again far in the future because my trust is that broken." Then user 2 commented and said, "Not the a-hole. One of the things that gets me is that you were working extra jobs to pay for the surrogacy, which I am assuming included her medical bills, and financially supporting her? I would speak to a solicitor about suing her for your money back. She knows that if she was having sex, then there was always a chance that the child was biologically hers." So, most of the cost was for the egg retrieval, embryos formation and storage, and especially the IVF procedures, which were not eligible for insurance cover through her health insurance. Then OP elaborates on the surrogate's family and said, "She doesn't have a husband. She had 2 kids with a long-term boyfriend, but they split. She's not married. She was with her ex for a long time and had 2 kids, but they didn't marry. They broke up around 5 or 6 years ago." And then finally, OP explains if the surrogate signed legal papers regarding parental rights and said, "So, the only paperwork that was legally drafted for her was transferring over the parental rights to us. Much like an adoption in the event that there is already a mutual off-the-books agreement to adopt from someone that we already personally know. We were trying to do it as cheap as possible because we didn't make much money, and the costs that couldn't be avoided were sky high enough to the point I took out loans from the bank and then picked up 2 part-time jobs on the side to pay towards these loans." Update 5 months later. I'm low on time right now, but I'm not staying, and I'm not caring for him anymore. I was not even offered a choice in the matter at all, which is why I kept telling myself I shouldn't want to compare myself to men in a similar type of parentage situation and have kept myself aloof towards the boy I thought was mine. I have no legal rights anymore, no matter what, because she fought to get her son back. And I'm actually a lot more upset about losing this child than I presented in my post, and I'm realizing that more and more with each passing day. The choice wasn't mine, and I lost. I posted that I wouldn't be the sucker raising someone else's kid is more of a cope than anything. Well, she got to have her kid, he left me, and I'm stuck with nothing. And then finally, OP explains about being the legal guardian into question after the maternal tests confirmed her not to be the biological mother and said, "So yes, this is exactly what I've been going through all these months. I have little to no rights, and I'm stuck coping with a major loss. My best chance at still being this boy's guardian is to stay with that awful scrub of a guy. Hope he lets me stay and agreeing to let that slore of a friend have 50-50 and be the chump who still pays most of the bills for that unmotivated scrub SOB. In the meantime, while he continues to cheat, it also came out that she wasn't his only affair either. He's been cheating all along for most of the time that we had been trying without success to get pregnant. So, for anyone who acts like I'm being selfish or if I make their blood boil, they can go F themselves because they don't know me like that, and I don't have any real choice in the matter." Well, everybody, this was an incredibly depressing story, and I just feel incredibly sympathetic to OP because, as she mentioned, she ended up with nothing here. She got screwed over in every possible way. There's no situation here where OP comes out in the top, at least not in the current term. Like maybe, hopefully she can find a partner who doesn't screw her over in the future. Maybe, hopefully she can adopt, that was mentioned. And I usually try to end things on a more positive note because I don't like sending people on their way sad and depressed, but oh my god! The husband was just cheating and raw dogging with everybody in town. You know he probably gonna get something. I'm just saying. Karma's gonna catch up to that wiener at one point or another. And as for the air quote surrogate friend lady, I hope every show that she likes watching gets canceled after the first season. That's what I think she deserves. But anyway, all we can hope for is that hopefully OP can get some therapy and find herself in a better position sometime down the line. We read updates all the time, so maybe there'll be another one when she's in a better place. But anyway, we are at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, commenting, have a really good day, and bye-bye!